Hey everybody, welcome back. And as I mentioned in my last video, that was going to be my last one with the Christmas tree. That's not the case. It started snowing today. And I was like, there's no way I'm not going to do it in front of the Christmas tree with a fire going for my first review. I think this is the perfect setting because when it's snowing and it's cold outside, you want to sit down and watch TV, movies, whatever. So we're going to do a deep dive today into Hawkeye. I was originally going to do a 5-part series, but then I've just recently finished Hawkeye. It's on Disney Plus, and I was like, this would be the perfect one to start out with. I have all my notes. I have Stormy down here. She's hanging out, chewing on a bone. Jasper's out walking around. Marshall's doing his thing. So I am going to tell you today and just sit down and my thoughts about Hawkeye. Now, at the very end of this, I'm going to give you my rating system. I am going to be doing film slates. So I'm going to be doing an out of 10. So whatever my overall thought is, I'm going to give you that number at the very end of this. If you have not seen any of the Avengers, if you have not seen or follow any of the storylines or watched anything, there is going to be some spoilers in here if you've never watched any of that. But I can't really do a review without talking about it. So just a heads up, if you've not seen any of those things, there are going to be spoilers in here. So just prepare yourself for that. The first thing I want to talk about is really even before Hawkeye came out, and that is when the actor Jeremy Renner was introduced as Hawkeye in Thor. And I knew at that moment that no other male actor could be Hawkeye's successor, at least for our generation. He embraced the role. He really made Hawkeye relatable and just really took it on with all of his heart. And I was like, there's nobody else that can, at least in my lifetime, that can fill those shoes. And so that's going to be important for what I tell you at the end of the review. So when I saw that he was going to be cast for that, it really was, yes, you really have done a stellar job selecting Hawkeye. And then the other two people that are going to be really relevant in this review is Kate Bishop, and she is played by Hailee, and then Yelena Belova, who is played by Florence. And the reason those are important, again, is going to be about the plot and how I feel that they did in moving forward with the story of Hawkeye. Let's just dive right into the plot, and this really takes place after the war. Natasha, Black Widow, has died, and it really talks and focuses in on Hawkeye's relationship and the grieving of his friend and of Black Widow and everything that's happened up to that point. And so you really kind of see him being older for the first time. Sometimes when you watch actors and actresses, you see them so much in a short amount of time, you don't realize, what their age really is. And they did a really great job kind of showcasing, Hawkeye is older now. He has a family, he's got kids. He doesn't heal as quickly as he used to, especially since he doesn't have superpowers, and the bumps and bangs and bruises take longer to get over, and you start to really see that, like, he's wearing down a little bit. And I think that's really important, again, as we move forward. The series really was a great transition for him, and I think if he is going to be retired out, this was the perfect series to do that in the way in which they did it. So from that perspective and the plot, I was very pleased with that. He deserves to have a really great transition. And I don't think he's out yet. I just think that this is the beginning of that in a really great focus point. Earlier, I mentioned how no other male casting could be for Hawkeye's successor. Well, so at the end of the series, they allude to that Kate Bishop is going to be taking on the role of Hawkeye. And so I think that's really a great way to transition. I think that it is something that she absolutely can do. I think it is a great role model for young girls to be able to go into archery and have someone that they can look up to. I think she will do an exceptional job. I've watched her in other things. I like her style. I think she did a great role as Kate. And so I can't wait to see how Hailee really embraces this next chapter, if they continue on with either the series or if they give her her own series after this. I'm not really sure how they want to transition Jeremy and Hailee, but it will be interesting to see going forward what they do with it. And it will be up to her ultimately and the producers where the new Hawkeye will go from here. I don't know if it'll have the same momentum. I don't know if it will have the same following because, again, Jeremy did such an incredible job with developing Hawkeye. It's kind of like Loki. To me, Tom will always be Loki, and I don't think anybody else can fill those shoes as Loki. So, again, it's going to be, can she keep the momentum? Can she keep the fan base that Hawkeye already had? Can she find that relatable in between on both sides of those demographics? Because there are two different demographics of people that you are bringing into the storyline when you transition from this Hawkeye, Jeremy, into Hailee's Hawkeye. And you're going to be grabbing a lot of this younger crowd, the crowd that's going to grow up with her. And so you have to make sure you don't leave the other crowd behind. It'll be very interesting to see. I think they did, like I said, they did a great job transitioning, and we're just going to have to see how this plays out. Again, with the cast, Maya, who is Echo, she has two names. She is actually played by a deaf actress, and they really talk about and showcase not only American Sign Language, but mobility aids and hearing aids and visual aids for the deaf community. I feel like that is just such a great thing to highlight and to showcase in cinema because it's not well represented. I'm not going to talk about the actual use of the language because there was a deaf actress on screen and she was in control of how they produced and what they showed and what they didn't show. So I'm not going to talk on behalf of the deaf community. I'm just going to say with the deaf community, I applaud the acknowledgement and awareness and what they did show. Because at one point in the series, they actually showed a security system that has the flashing lights for someone that cannot hear, and how they actually knew that they were in Echo's apartment. So that was a really, really big deal. And I thought, wow, they really, really took it to the next step in representation and awareness. So that was, to me, kudos on that end. I really respect that and think they did a great job, which is interesting because I just found out, I don't know why I'm behind on this, but they're going to take Maya's story and make a spinoff. Echo, like I said, she has two names. They're going to make an entire series just on Echo, and I cannot wait to see what they do with that because it really will be interesting to see how they continue that representation and that awareness for the deaf community. Visually, I thought it was stunning. I thought the special effects were great. Now, we didn't have any cows or full prosthetics or anything, but as far as visual makeup for battles or cuts and bruises, there wasn't anything that just really stuck out as, wow, that's really bad. I thought everything was pretty much appropriate for the fight levels that they were having, except this one part, and I even laughed out loud with my husband. Guy and Kate both had the nose strip with the same cut in the same place on their noses, and I was like, could we not have picked any other abrasion on their face? I mean, it literally was identical. I don't know if that was on purpose for foreshadowing, but again, it made me laugh out loud that they did that. So again, I thought the effects were great. I didn't think anything was over the top or not done properly from what I saw in my initial viewing of the series. Now, it did drop for me in points in two areas. One was, and again, this is a spoiler, it wasn't until the next to last episode that they just happened to throw in the big guy who turned out to be Kingpin. And it's like, for something that should have been an easy standalone series for anyone to kind of get introduced to Hawkeye or to that storyline, I thought it did a really great job for someone that was new to kind of follow along. It was an easy follow along. But all of a sudden, there's like this, big guy that we've never heard about before, and bam, there he was, and there was Kingpin, and with no backstory, you're like, what? Where did this come from? It feels completely out of left field. I don't understand why this guy is such a big deal, besides the fact you made him look big and scary, and that you made Kate and him battle. So it's like, I don't understand why they did that, except it almost felt last minute, like an afterthought. I don't know, just my opinion in my first review of the series. The second place that it dropped in points for me was the movement and the flow of the series. Between episodes kind of 4 to 6 or 3.5 to 6, 3 to 5, it kind of drug for me and I lost interest where I actually put it away for a while and didn't pick it back up for several weeks. And then I finished watching the rest of them back to back to back as they released. And I watched them basically all in one day. The end of the series, I just finished it out. So to me, it had a really great momentum, kind of had a little bit of a lull in it, and then we picked it back up. And then the ending I thought was really great, except for that one part about Kingpin where I was like, I don't really know how that fits in. If you're doing this as a standalone, you should have developed him more in those slower episodes. I think if you had introduced them in those slower episodes, it would have felt more fluid and more, I guess, genuine. I don't even know if that's the right word, but it really would have helped the flow a little bit more to have him introduced earlier on with talking with the tracksuits and even who is higher than him, because there's always going to be a bigger bad guy. There's always going to be someone pulling the strings and calling the shots. And we knew that the tracksuits weren't the baddest guys on the block. There's obviously someone else, but we could have been introduced to him a little bit earlier and it made it more fluid. I thought that there was plenty of comic relief and really age-appropriate moments where you got to see the quirky, fun personality of Hawkeye and Kate together. And then also Kate has some really funny moments with one of the guys from the tracksuits. And I thought that was really brilliant in how they did that, as well as there's this group called the Guild that's brought in towards the end. And they're just a bunch of regular people who admire the Avengers, and they have this guild, and they have some really great, funny comic relief moments in it, but also they bring in the humanity side of civilians that, we are not superpowers. We don't have superpowers. We're not superheroes, but we can still do some good. And they're there to kind of help support Hawkeye and Kate through that. And then the last person I want to talk about, going back to Black Widow and how Natasha had died, we got introduced to her sister, and we got introduced to her back in Black Widow, the movie Black Widow. And I thought that Florence, the actress, did an incredible job. I was like, I can't wait to see more of her, that we have to see more of her. And then lo and behold, here she is in this series. And when she came in, she didn't miss a beat. It felt like she went straight from the movie right into the series. There was no transition that I felt like was awkward or weird. She just nailed it coming in right out the gate. So very, very proud of Florence and how she portrayed Yelena in the series and in the movie. I still wish there was a little bit more on her. I mean, we got a lot in Black Widow. I still think we could have seen a little bit more of her in the series, even though I know it's Hawkeye's series, but the moment between her and Hawkeye and having that conversation that they did at the end of the series, I thought was beautifully done. It was really impactful and a very, very climatic part of the series that I will always look back and think about because it was such a memorable moment. So they had a great on-screen chemistry, as well as the characters were right in sync with storyline. And I hope that we do get to continue to see more of Yelena and Florence as playing her. So because of the two things that knocked me down was the introduction of Kingpin. Like I said, it didn't feel organic to me. It felt very pushed and just kind of out of place. And then also that it drug and how that kind of had that lull in it. To me, I gave this an 8.5 out of 10, which is very high for me. And a lot of that came from not only from the storyline, because I thought it was a very good storyline. I thought it was very solid, had some great points in it, had some great memorable climatic points in it, but also the awareness that it was brought to with the deaf community and that they hired a deaf actress to do it. So again, you're falling right in line with it. It was very age appropriate, brought in the deaf community. And also one thing I forgot to mention was they really highlighted young people getting into archery and how you can play on a team and you can be a part of a team in school and really make it accessible and something that archery seems so out of reach for young people, and how it's really not. It's a great sport and there's a lot of respect in it. And I think they really highlighted someone young coming up into the sport and how it formed her entire life being Kate Bishop and why it's so important to her. And so again, that raised that point level for me because of the plot, and it was just brilliant. I thought it was a great series. I think you should check it out. It is a recommendation. Again, I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10 film slates. And I hope you guys enjoy it. And let me know if you enjoyed this review. Give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Have you seen it? Have you reviewed it? Have you seen all the episodes? And what do you think about the cast on here? Do you think it was cast appropriately? Do you think the plot was great? Do you agree with Kingpin? Do you agree he should have been introduced sooner? What are your thoughts on it? I'd love to know. Until next time, guys, have a great time watching movies, and we will see you soon.